Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the MMA Huddle. As always, you're joined by myself and Big Willie style. We are going to be breaking down the Dustin Poirier Dan Hooker fight card. And later on, we'll be doing the betting side. Will's going to give you some insight into the fight card and the lines and where they're up to. Also, if you've not already done it, hit that subscribe button. Give us a like on the video, because the more likes we get actually helps with the channel as well. And as always, hit that notification button for when the interviews and obviously the breakdowns come out. Now, first and foremost, Will, I'm going to start before the breakdowns in saying happy birthday to the legend, Cara.
Yeah, she turned three. She turned three today, so it's been her day, and she's been kind of running riot. But like I say, it is her birthday, so she can kind of do what she wants, and she's been good with it. And she's kind of kept the dog in check. They two have kind of been hand in hand kind of throughout the day. So yeah, nice. She's a big 3 now. So yeah,
I'll expect my slice of birthday cake in the post. Yeah.
Yes, I'll get that to you ASAP.
That's superb. No worries, no worries. I don't want to miss out on the cake. Everyone loves the cake bit. It did look very, very excellent. I'd say Moana, love a bit of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I say, we're going to jump into this fight card. Poirier Hooker. Obviously, next week we're free. We've got a week off until we got Fight Island, which has got an array of fights which are fantastic. But we're jumping into this one. We'll start at the bottom, working our way up. We have Jordan Griffin facing Youssef Zalal. Will, break it down, bro.
Yeah, we were speaking before we come on here. This fight card, there's a lot of fights in me that I cannot seem to get a really good read on at all, really. And this is kind of one here because Griffin, in my opinion, I don't think he's super solid in a lot of areas, but he's very dogged and very determined in his fights, and he's a guy that you can never really take lightly in any spot there. And Zalal, I kind of picked against him against Austin Lingo in his first fight, and I thought he actually fought a really, really good fight. And really mixed it up there, and there was a couple of things I didn't like. I didn't like the fact that he kind of had his hands down, kind of at his hips pretty much. But what he did well in that one, I think that was a kind of short notice fight that was put together as well. That he kind of mixed it up really well. He was more crisper striker. He was thrown from different angles. He was feinting and throwing Lingo off his strikes. And then when he had to get takedowns, he went after them, and he got numerous ones kind of throughout the fight there. When you look at Griffin there, like I say, he is a pretty much a guy that can be taken down very, very easily. All of his UFC fights, he has been taken down. He's lost a couple of fights. Won his last one against TJ Brown. Actually picked against him in his fight that was supposed to happen a couple of weeks ago against Derek Minner, even though Minner's not really kind of UFC caliber. I was kind of picking against him there. So how I think this fight goes, I think that Griffin's got a lot of experience. He's got a lot of experience over someone like Zalal. Zalal to me is like, I like how fleet-footed he is and how he can throw kind of off the left and the right-hand side. Like, he can switch stances very, very easily as well, which I quite like. I think I'm going to go Zalal. And when I was looking at his betting odds, he was an underdog at that point, and now the kind of lines flip where he's a favourite, and the dog money soon might be in Jordan Griffin. But honestly, not super confident. I'll go Youssef Zalal to win a decision, but I think it could be relatively close.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a horrible one to judge as well. I think it'll be a super tight fight. I think Youssef will do what he did last time. He'll circle around a lot, switching stances, circle moving. He's very active in staying away from engaging fights. He comes out, makes you chase after him, and he'll time your foot in. So when you're heavy on your front foot is when he'll spring his shot. He'll throw the attack, whether it be striking or be it a takedown. I feel that in the last fight, like you say, he kind of got the takedown due to his opponent followed him. His opponent followed him. He didn't close the cage off. Very different footwork involved, definitely different requirements. I think Jordan Griffin could use footwork a little bit better, but like you said, Will, Jordan Griffin doesn't mind getting taken down because he loves to go for chokes straight away. He'll go for that guillotine. What he did great in that last one against TJ was he got the Marcellatine grip. Now, I don't know if anyone knows who Marcelo Garcia is. He's one of my favourite practitioners of no-gi jiu-jitsu, and one of his famed moves is the Marcellatine, which is the guillotine grip, whereas your standard grip would be to get a S grip or whichever grip you want to get on your Hansen to bring the arms up. He gets his hands together and puts his arm over the back, which actually creates a horrible amount of tension. I love to use it if I get a chance to when I'm rolling. Jordan Griffin used that superbly. I'm going to sway towards Jordan Griffin because I think, like you say, Will, bit dogged, and I think Youssef, when he shoots in for these takedowns, Jordan's going to be happy to oblige that, and I think he's got a little bit more on his back, and I think he's got a little bit sneaky tendencies to get those chokes in, those submissions in. I don't think he'll be winning the fight up until that moment, I don't think he'll be winning the fight. I think Youssef will probably land a couple of shots, move away. Jordan will be kind of chasing after it, and he'll get the takedown will happen. But I'm going to go for like a random off-the-cuff submission for Griffin. Maybe like the second, third round when Youssef's a little bit tired, a little bit more energy's burnt out, and he's not as... That's when mistakes happen. The best example is Ian McCall and John Lineker. When Ian McCall was winning the fight the whole time and he did a sloppy takedown attempt against Gary Lineker, didn't turn the corner, and the whole fight turned around on that moment. And I think that's what we'll see here. So I'm going to go with Jordan Griffin on that one. And next up in the women's strawweight division, 2 new additions, last-minute additions, literally last-minute additions. No idea why they bothered doing this. I know McCann and Ladd were made a fight on the card. Ladd, sadly, I think, is it an ACL tear she's had? Yeah. Which is a shame for her, bless, because, like, ACL's a long time on recovery, and she's a really good girl in that division, so it's a shame it's happened to her. She won't see her till next year now. But, yeah, Kay Hansen against Jinh Frey. Now, Frey's the former champion and victor. She was dabbling, she was down at 105. She's obviously fighting at strawweight here. I've got nothing against her getting signed to the UFC in the sense of she kind of earned her stripes. She's done the rounds. She's a former champion, but she's on the latter part of her career. Let's say she's 35 years old. Her game has not evolved a lot. One thing you see with her is she can get taken down. She can get controlled. Kay Hansen she's 20, so she's on the other spectrum of this, where she's so young, she's not even found her style. She's not found the kind of... like, she lost against Erin Blatchfield, who I think Erin's going to be a good talent, who's in Invicta at the moment. She's a cracking one to look out for, folks. But I think Kay is still learning her trade, learning her craft, learning her style. And I think that Kay's just got to do what she knows is charge, close the opponent down, go to Jinh, get it down, and get on top of it and just try to dominate her in that sense. Jinh Frey's she is strong. She's got a bit of experience in that way where she might be able to kind of outthink Kay. But I'm actually going to go towards Kay Hansen here. I think that she might be able to just grind this fight out with the kind of sheer determination that she's shown in previous bouts with the kind of grappling aspect. For the fight to win here, I think Jinh Frey just needs to keep the fight standing and just use her striking to try and keep Kay off her and keep the fight away, use her and pick her off at range. But maybe size comes into this and strength might come into it, like Kay might come in a little bit heavier in total, but I'm going to go Kay Hansen. I think she can get a decision win, but I don't expect it to be anything spectacular this fight.
Yeah, this is, like I say, it's a hard one to really get a really solid read and feel comfortable on either side, in my opinion, because, like I say, Jinh Frey, I think most people can, if you're a hardcore of the sport and you watch Invicta, you'll know who she is. Obviously, she held a belt at 105, and this is her first time coming up to 115. But she's not like a young girl. She's like 35 years, so she's obviously worked her way into getting into the UFC and getting the short notice opportunity here. It's probably the biggest thing that's kind of happened in her career. But you kind of look at her record, and she's got some losses in there. She's been knocked out a couple of times as well. Hamasaki knocked her out way back in Invicta, way back in the day, and then Seo Ham knocked her dead in South Korea. So then she had those fights with Grusander, where I thought, even the split, I actually kind of thought she lost that fight.
I did too, mate, yeah.
I thought Grusander deserved to get the nod in that one, but it's how the judges see it. And then she beat Ashley Cummins kind of last time out. She is definitely, in my opinion, the better striker of the two here. I think she's far more technical, far more fluid. She's got an absolutely beautiful knockout. I want to say it's a way back, 2000 and 15, 14 maybe, and it's like a head kick, and then she absolutely threw a coffin nail right hand straight down the pipe and knocked her out really, really badly. But Hansen, very kind of 6-3, not really that skilled on the feet. She has been taking boxing fights, I've seen, out there to try and improve her hands. But if she wins this fight, it's going to be through a grappling. I have no doubt about that. If she can establish some top position, which she has done in some fights, especially, I will say this to her, like the last 2 fights, I think she's definitely looked a lot better than what she kind of did previously. In the Samova fight where she lost the split was quite close, and some of these Gall fights, it's little things that kind of determine how the fights go. But she is coming off 2 wins. She got a stoppage in her fight against Cagliari, I think it was. I think the small cage could kind of help her here. I think she could bull rush into getting some takedowns and maybe getting some top position through that. So, like I say, I'm not confident in this fight one little bit, but I'm going to take Kay Hansen. I'll take her via a very kind of close run decision.
Okay, nice. Well, next up we have in the welterweight division, Sato against Ramiz Brahimaj. Oh gosh, sorry, Brahimaj. There you go. Well, what do you think then? Ramiz got brought in as a replacement for someone, and I've forgotten who.
Yeah, it's just, this is another one here where I was watching the fights on both guys, and of course you get a newcomer and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go watch some of this guy and see what he's like. And the first 2 fights I watched, well, I think it was Evan Coots and I think Justin Patterson, and I think that was 2 fights that he lost. And this to me is a guy that I think that if he does not get the fight to the ground, he is. I think Sato could look decent in this one. I don't think Sato's all that great either. I think I've seen fights in the past where he's been dropped, he's been taken down. But in that Justin Patterson one, like he was getting big explosive takedowns. He was getting some beautiful sweeps, but on the feet he was getting blasted. And to me, he looks like he's only got 5 minutes of gas. But even when he does gas, he still really drives in for his takedowns and can get the fight to where he needs it. And you've seen Sato taken down. You've seen Bilal take him down a couple of times in the last fight there. I think he's a no-gi world champion, 2019 no-gi champion as a purple belt. So the guy's got some legit kind of ground skills. I think that's the wins that you have seen him get. And he's got some quick wins through his jiu-jitsu, like in under a minute as well. But outside of that, I think that if Sato can it might be a little bit sketchy in the first round, and if he keeps his fight standing, I think Sato has got a far bigger striking arsenal than what Brahimaj has. But this could be rather sketchy if it hits the ground, and it wouldn't surprise me if Brahimaj was to get an arm triangle or a rear naked choke against someone like Sato, because I don't think he's all that great on the ground. But I'll take the experience of Takashi Sato, the UFC experience, far more fight experience. But Brahimaj, I mean, he comes from Fortis, and that's a great camp to come from. I think they've been kind of up and down recently. Would it surprise me if he comes out here and finds a submission in the first round? Probably not, because I think that's his biggest shot, maybe winning the fight, is through his jiu-jitsu. But I'll take Sato via a decision. But again, I think it's a super close fight.
Yeah, Ramiz, the only way he's won is submissions. That's the only chance. That's the only way he's won fights is submissions. I remember watching one of his fights where he did knock the guy down for shot. He did strike the guy to get the guy down. So he does have some form of striking, but obviously, like you say, Will, I think he kind of just puts all his eggs into one basket and goes, look, I know where my bread's buttered. It's on the ground. I'm just going to go for that because it's the best place for me to go. And like you say, I think like the first round is key for him because it's when the fight is the driest. There's more friction, so when the grappling aspect, it's easier for them to get grip on someone and even take their back, for example, and not lose contact of them. Sato, for me, he's very calm on the feet, very patient, takes his time with striking, has been hit, but he's been taken down, like you said, Belil did some great takedowns on him, and that was because Belil was timing him. timed his movement, timed his footwork, and got it in on there. And I think if I was Ramiz, I would watch that tape, especially to learn the movements of Sato, to time my preferred takedowns. And one thing we've got to take into account, as always, Will, with this fight card, and as we had before with the others, is the size of the cage. It's more suitable for Ramiz this fight than it is more for Sato, because Sato's got the smaller cage. He has to be more conscious and aware of the takedown threat because there's less room for him. I'm going to go for Ramiz. I think he can actually get the submission in it, because I think he knows it himself. He's going to have to get the takedown and get that grappling aspect going of it. I think Ramiz can get the takedown and get the submission win. I just think he is actually decent at getting those chokes. He's good at finding them. I'm not confident on either guy. I just kind of thought, you know what, I think he'll come in for like a whirlwind and just go, and he's going to go fast out the blocks at Takashi Sato. So I'm going for Ramiz for submission win. Next up is a catchweight bout, 150 pounds. Sean Woodson against Kyle Nelson. This one is, I'm not sure why it's a catchweight belt. Do you know why, Will? I don't know why they're doing catchweight. Yeah, we don't know. They're doing it. Sean Woodson, he just looks weird and out of place in that weight class, doesn't he? When he fights, I'm like, dude, just grow, just eat a beer, drink a beer, eat a pizza, grow into that body, that frame, man. You look so... But one thing about Sean Woodson, it does gripe me a little bit, when he does the dancing with his hands and he bobs his hands up and down, like the weird kind of, am I throwing a feint or am I just taunting? He does the dreaded thing for a tall guy, leans back a little bit when he's put his chin out in the air, thinking it's okay, I'm really tall, you can't reach me. Kyle Nelson showed that, albeit it did start with an elbow from the clinch, he landed a beautiful elbow in his last, and he's got heavy hands. Kyle Nelson seems to throw power in his hands if he gets you against the cage. Woodson is quite placid in that manner. I find he's happy to just be pushed and pressured against the cage, and even weirdly try to pick you off when he's got his back against the wall. On the ground, I would be surprised if Kyle goes for the ground game with this. It's only because Sean Woodson is quite long and he's got long dexterities. It's quite threatening for like arm bars, triangles, etc. It's quite cumbersome when you've got a guy that kind of length in that weight class. Man, this is one of the ones I'm kind of stuck on. I couldn't quite get a clear read on it. As long as Sean can avoid the strikes from Kyle landing clean, I'm gonna go for Sean Woodson. I think he could just use his length a little bit better, reach out, pick him off a little bit if he can, use the jab and use those front kicks and teeps a little bit. But if Kyle can start getting close and landing strikes with Sean leaning back, I think Kyle can really put him in trouble, and it would be a lesson for Sean to work on. But not confident picking this one, but I'll go Woodson.
Yeah, I actually really like Sean Woodson. I think he's got a lot of potential. I do. I think that with the frame that guy has, being 6'2" with a 79-inch reach at 145, that's going to give a lot of people fits. And his boxing, in my opinion, is very, very good. I think, but obviously, what you point out is his defense is a little bit open. And if you've got that tall man's defense and you leave that head lying in the air, you could get one caught at the bottom of your chin, and that could be you. But I really like I like what I see from Woodson. I liked what I seen on the Contender Series where he got that win there.
The flying knee, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think his win over Bochniak is a legit win because Bochniak is a really, really, really tough guy. And he's a guy as well that not many people look super amazing against. But he landed at a high clip. He landed a lot. Didn't land so much. Didn't get hit on so much. Where I think Nelson can get hit a little bit too much. I mean, he's got a 8-inch reach, I think, against this guy. Mm-hmm. He's going to use that. He can absolutely use that. And with his boxing skill, I think he's going to frustrate someone like Kyle Nelson. Now, Nelson, to me, I've never really thought he's been particularly kind of UFC caliber. I've always tried to kind of be on the fade side of him. But the guy, once he plants his feet, he can throw with some devastating power. But for me, I just like Sean Woodson. This is one of the spots I do like this week where I think that I just, like I say, it's one of the spots I really like, and one of the fights I'm actually looking forward to is seeing is seeing really Sean Woodson in all honesty. So I'm going to take Woodson. I actually think he knocks this guy out in the first couple of rounds. I think that length will kind of come to the fore. I'm interested to see what he's done since that last fight against Bochniak, and if he's made any improvements. So I'm going to take Woodson TKO in probably the second. In fact, I'm going to go middle part of the third round, actually.
Okay, nice, bro. Next up, we have in the heavyweight division, Philipe Lins against Tanner Boser. Big boys are stepping in. Do the big boys fall over, though?
Yeah, I was saying to you beforehand, I'm kind of struggling with this fight. I've been kind of flip-flopping a little bit. Both guys run about the kind of the same height, same kind of reach. You've kind of got a lot more experience. Not well, I shouldn't really say experience, but kind of bigger fight probably experience and the Philipe Lins side, where he obviously has been a PFL, he's been fighting for big bucks over there. And you've got Tanner Boser, who kind of came through the Canadian kind of regional scene. He's 1-1 in his UFC kind of tenure, win over Daniel Spitz. And then was competitive. I'll give him that against Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane was really kind of just picking him at a distance and really picking him apart with his striking, and he is the better striker there. Philipe Lins kind of let a lot of people down against Andrei Arlovski. I was one of them. I think I bet him to win by decision there. And really, Arlovski just fought. Arlovski sometimes can just turn up and completely stifle fighters, and that's what he did in that one there. He used his length and his jab beautifully in that fight, and Philipe Lins really didn't have many answers. Honestly, this fight here to me is a clear pass, kind of betting wise. Pick wise, Lins has got a little bit of an advantage there. Where I think Boser, he just kind of lands a little bit more. To me, this is a coin flip fight. I'm going to go Philipe Lins, not super confident. I think with the betting lines are pretty much a straight kind of pick 'em on either side. If you got dog money on either side and you've got a confident read, then I'd maybe go with that guy. But I'll go Lins. But honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if a couple of days down the line I was maybe on Boser's side. It's just one of those fights for me that kind of get a good read and just let the best man win. I'll sit back and watch and see who wins.
Yeah, Tanner for me as well is one of them guys. He's just a durable heavyweight.
Yeah.
He's a durable heavyweight. He's kind of ideal for the UFC because they kind of know he's not going to get the belt. He's not going to get to that level. But he's good for guys on the lower side. So like Spitz, for example. Spitz should in theory be a lot better than he was. Tall, long, heavyweight, should be able to pick guys off. And he just didn't do it. And he never looked impressive, Spitz, at all to me. And Tanner, though, he's one of those guys who's just durable. So for me, Philipe here should really just be wary. It's going to be probably a 3-round fight. Tanner can take a hit. He can take a punch. He can take a hard battle. He can grind out a fight. Philipe needs to keep it away from the cage. Just use his hands. He's got a bit. I think he's got a speed on him. I think he could start lighting Tanner up a little bit with the jabs and the straights, 1-2s, just simple 1-2s, leg kicks as well, and just mix that up. Keep it, just keep it away from the cage, grappling side of things, because Tanner will try to get him to the cage to kind of just grind on him a little bit, tire out the arms, just work on him. I'm not overly high on Philipe, but I'm gonna go towards him on this one. I think there's a little bit more in Philipe Lins skill set wise, but not just now, but I think in the future, I think he could be a kind of, ranked heavyweight in the future and do all right in that division. I don't think he's going to be world champion, in my opinion, just from what I've seen. But yeah, I'm going to go with Philipe in that one as well, Will. Next up, we have in the women's flyweight division, Mara Romero Borella against Miranda Maverick, who's been signed up to the UFC as well from Invicta. So we've got another Invicta FC fighter joining the ranks. That's free for this card alone. If any of you guys haven't watched Invicta FC cards before, I'll give you all a heads up. You're probably worth doing it anyway, because these are the girls that kind of the UFC watch, let them get their work done and bring up from. So a lot of girls from the Invicta get signed to the UFC, and it's where they've learnt their trade. And Miranda is one of those girls who's over time evolved, developed, and grown as a fighter. She's improved over time. She's gotten her skill set tied up a little bit more, and she's tied it up. Now she's going against a girl who their UFC are looking at and thinking, we could probably do with not having you on the books, Borella. Now there's obviously the indiscretion she had in Italy, with herself, but also for the UFC as a whole, it's probably they're looking at the future. Borella's not getting any better. She's lost 3 in a row. It's a good chance for Miranda to come into the UFC, get a win on a debut, and that's what they're planning now. There's always a spanner that gets thrown in the works. Borella can win fights. She's shown it in the past. But I'm going to go towards Miranda Maverick in this one. I think her hands aren't too bad at all. I think she's good with her hands. She's developed. If you watch her Invicta fights, you see how much she's grown. But she's a strong girl. The girl can grapple. She can get you to the mat. And when she's on the mat there, don't get me wrong, she's made a couple of mistakes in the past. Against Deanna Bennett was one where I know she avenged that loss, which is a good thing, but in the first time she fought, she made a couple of little mistakes, and it was just inexperience. And when she fought the second time round, you just saw a difference in it. When she didn't give up the ground game so much, she was more dominant on top, and she was more punishing. And obviously, she beat Pearl Gonzalez as well, which is her last fight, and she was dominant in that fight. I really was dominant. I expected Pearl Gonzalez to be a little bit better than she was in that fight. Miranda just really blew me away. I thought she put a great performance against Pearl, and that's why maybe the UFC saw her as a good potential former UFC fighter beaten, and I think she'll do it again. I think on the feet, I think Miranda will start to get a feel for it, but I think on the ground is where she'll win. She'll get Borella to the ground because she can get taken down and just beat her from the top. So I go for a decision win, but if she gets a submission, it wouldn't be a shock because Miranda's got quite strong, tight grip, so she could maybe get a choke somewhere, but I'm going to go Miranda decision win.
Yeah, this is a girl I don't actually mind the UFC kind of bringing in here if they can match her up properly. It's one of the girls actually when I made a video, 10 people think the UFC should sign. I thought Maverick was definitely one of the girls that they should move to the UFC, but like I say, they have to do right with her in the matchmaking kind of side of things. What can I say about her? I don't think she's great on the feet. I think she has, if you watch her Invicta days, she has gradually kind of gotten her game better where she'll throw more strikes. She's starting to kind of use her legs a little bit more. But she's a girl that has got kind of stationary head movement and is there to be kind of hit. So anybody that's really, really technical and really kind of skilled and with a little bit of power could pose her real big problems. But she, like I say, she has improved. I think her skill set, where she'll win majority of her fights, is through her grappling. I don't think her wrestling's super solid. I think it's something that's definitely improving. Miranda is just a girl who's improving constantly. I think that's what the UFC can maybe see, maybe growth from fight to fight, and maybe she can grow into being something. She's kind of very, very dogged in getting takedowns, but she could, in some of those spots where she is maybe a little bit too dogged, or she's trying to kind of be a little bit too aggressive, she can give up positions, especially if she hits the ground. She'll get the takedown, but it wouldn't surprise me if someone like Borella was to jump onto her back and garner a position like that. But she has been getting better at kind of mixing up her takedowns a little bit and trying to use some kind of better movements against the cage, maybe single legs, trips, whatever it may be, to get the fight there. But once she gets the fight to the mat, that's where you can see her real kind of strong suit kind of come to the forefront. If she can establish a dominant position, that's when she's very, very dangerous, and she can unload with you on ground and pound till you make a mistake. If she gets your back, she'll sink in a choke, and I don't think she's overly that bad actually off her own back, and I think that's something that Borella might try to kind of establish here, where taking her down, because that's what I'm saying, that's what Borella likes to do, and sometimes she gets into good positions, but sometimes she gets caught, like she did in the Courtney Casey one. Like, she was in there, she was dominating that fight, then an armbar kind of comes out of nowhere, and she's getting tapped out, and she's nearly getting her arm taken off as well. But I think that's what the UFC are really kind of looking at here, is maybe to grow someone like Miranda Maverick against someone who I think in Borella is, I think she's tough, but I don't really see her as kind of UFC kind of caliber anymore. So on the feet, like I say, she doesn't even have that much output. Miranda could probably have the advantage up there as well. I just think that Maverick's probably going to have enough to kind of really rip her to the floor, get takedowns, and get into a position there. So I'm actually going to pick Miranda Maverick via submission. I think she's going to sub her on maybe late round 2, early round 3 here. But I'm interested to see what they do with Maverick, because I think that she is someone that the UFC can kind of build a little bit. But I'll pick Maverick via submission early round 3.
Nice, bro. Okay, next up, we are going to go with the lightweight division as the prelim main event, so to speak. Luis Pena, Khama Worthy. Well, interesting matchup. What's going to happen now?
Yeah, like I said, I've never really thoroughly been in. I've said this to you a couple of times. I've never been on the violent kind of Bob Ross kind of hype train, to say the least. I wasn't really on the show, and since he's come into the UFC, I've kind of looked at opportunities to fade him, and I've tried a couple of times. I've been successful a couple of times in the Frivola fight and the Trezano fight, and then there's other times he's got me, I think, in the Peterson one and something else. But I'm on him in this fight here. I think that Khama Worthy, obviously, he came in last year. There was him facing his close friend, Villante Smith, and knocking him out in the first round. He was one of the biggest kind of dogs to kind of cash in 2019. And as I'm saying, it's nearly a full year later, we're getting back into him here, getting another fight. And I do think he has the skills here to potentially give Luis Pena a really, really kind of tough fight here. I'm just going to bring up the stats here of these two. I forgot to do that. But like I say, Bob Ross, Luis Pena, he's a big dude for this division. We're talking about length with Sean Woodson. So this is a 6'3" guy coming down to 155. That's huge. And he's going to have a slight reach advantage, but he is going to have 4 or 5 inches in the kind of height advantage. And his boxing, I think, is really, really good. I think his grappling is something that is been gradually getting better. I do like the fact that he's moved to American Top Team. He was at AKA, and from what I've been kind of listening to some interviews, he was saying he wasn't really getting the kind of one-on-one time to really improve himself as a fighter. And that, with AKA, you've got Khabib coming in, you've got all the Russians, you've obviously got DC and some of the guys there. So to get that one-on-one time is going to be hard to get. American Top Team, they've got far more coaches, I believe, far more fighters that are probably fighting more than AK guys. But like I said, there's some spots here I've liked him in and some that I don't. But this is one I think if he comes through the first round against Khama Worthy, I think his grappling could be something that really takes over this fight. And like I say, we have seen him taken down before. He's in positions there where his back could be against the cage and he could get taken down, but his length of his kind of body limbs is a really awkward thing to kind of get as well, and he can move into positions like you've seen in the Matt Wyman fight. And you shouldn't really take too much away from that Matt Wyman fight, because Matt Wyman was probably come back off I don't even know, like a
6 years
year layoff, and he really kind of beat him up pretty badly and got the stoppage there. Lost to Frivola, which I thought was the right decision, honestly. I thought that Frivola did enough to win that fight. He kind of ran off, didn't think he did. And then the Steve Garcia one, he just really came out there and he just used his length and kind of beat him up from the outside and passed his guard when he got taken down. So, like I said, outside the first round here, I think Worthy, when I look at his some of the times when he struggled and he's lost fights, is when he's been knocked out a couple of times himself. But I think after the first round, he can tend to slow down a little bit. And I think this is where Bob Ross can kind of come in here and really kind of put his stamp on there. Like I say, I know he's been at ATT. He's been working really hard, actually, with Jorge Masvidal and Dustin Poirier and a guy by the name of Bo Nickel. If you know who Bo Nickel is, he's a really high-level wrestling guy. So I think he's going to be kind of looking to maybe use some of that here. So I think his grappling is going to win him this fight in the kind of middle to later part of this one. I've got him via decision. So I've got Luis. In fact, I've got him via submission, actually. I've got Pena via third round choke, but it could be a little bit sketchy earlier on because Khama Worthy does throw a lot of power and he's got some big knockout wins on his resume as well. But I'm taking Luis Pena via sub.
Okay, nice, bro, nice. So here we go. Luis Pena, like you say, he is going to AT, so it is a change. How quickly the effect is taken with that camp, we don't know yet. We will hopefully see something in this one. Because like you say, if, for example, if they teach him some new stuff, it might take him 6 months, 8 months of confidence in training to use it in a bout. Because you don't necessarily get the confidence from the first time of doing it to use it in the cage. Not all fighters are like that. And like you say, he might even only be at ATT for a year and a half and he might find it something similar to there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like. I'd love to see the sparring footage of him and Dustin Poirier and Hove and stuff. That would have been good to watch. But Khama Worthy, I'm swinging towards Khama on this one. I'm going to go a bit. I don't know what the odds are. I don't know who the favourites are. I'm just going to go for a little bit of a wild one with Khama Worthy because I think he's got the pop in his hands, the speed, the footwork. Like what I've seen of him, man, he's nice and light on his feet. His bread and butter seems to be up on his feet. He's just one of those guys who have got power. He doesn't look. It doesn't even look like he throws with power, but he's just got that power in his hands. Luis Pena, you'd think, with the reach and the length, when he throws a punch, he should generate physiologically a lot of power, but he doesn't seem to have that in him. He seems to be that guy that would just chip away at you. And I think if Khama obviously can work on stuff when he's been away for the year, we obviously, like you say, Will, the issue we have was it was nearly a year since the last fought. Then you've got the fights before that. He could have worked a lot on his cardio. We don't know. I'm hoping that if he can just pace himself a little bit better, because Luis Pena's there to be hit. Matt Frevola showed almost like a nice blueprint to beat Luis Pena, where as long as you're pressuring him, getting him on his back foot, and putting the grind on him, Luis Pena doesn't like it. Luis Pena likes to be the one just able to pick off in his own time. If you can break that rhythm, put the pressure on him, it can affect him. And I think Frevola, when he landed, I thought he landed some good shots, but I think Khama Worthy's got faster footwork and he hits harder. I think he can hurt Luis Pena in this fight, and I think he can put Luis Pena off his game with the hurt. So I'm going to go sway towards Khama Worthy. I don't know how it would end the fight. I don't know if it will end, but I'm just going to go for a Worthy shot here and pick him to win. Next up we have, kicking off the main card, step up to the heavyweight division because he loves his slice of pizza too much, is Gian Villante, taking on the tiny man in Maurice Greene. Well, it's been, I think, I want to say 8 to 9 years maybe since Gian Villante fought a heavyweight back in the Strikeforce days, and obviously he's cutting down to 205 back there recently, so he'll probably come in. He might be a 230 guy, 235, who knows? But he's fighting a guy who's going to be taller, longer range, and obviously a natural heavyweight, but a guy who's been a heavyweight his whole career. So we're going to see Gustafsson step into heavyweight division against Fabrizio Verdum as well. So that's going to be interesting to see what Gus looks like at heavyweight. For Gian Villante, though, I think Gian Villante just realises the heavyweight division's shallower than the light heavyweight division, which doesn't say a lot, which is weird, but Gian Villante probably knows he's not going to get anywhere in the light heavyweight division. He's getting certain fights given to him, which he's getting the likes of the Ed Hermans and the guys. There's nothing there for him. It makes sense maybe just to have a couple of fights at heavyweight. Why not? He's not going to have to cut weight. He'll be a little bit fresher. He'll probably have a speed. Maybe it might have a speed advantage here. But for Maurice Greene, he's a striker first and foremost. Gian Villante's got to close that distance, get close to Maurice Greene. I think he'll have a bit of difficulty in that fight. I think Maurice Greene, if he can use the 1-2 straights, use some teep kicks, front kicks, really just lay it on to Gian Villante, I think Gian will have a tough time because we've seen Gian he gets hit in fights. He takes hits. And he does wear them well in some fights and he doesn't in others. I think when he's obviously going to be facing a true heavyweight is what I want to call this, I think he'll have a bit of problem taking the damage as opposed to when he did fight light heavyweight. So I'm going towards Maurice Greene. I think he could probably finish Gian Villante in this fight within the distance.
I think it's going to be a sloppy fight. The whole entire fight. I don't think it's going to be a good fight to watch, honestly. Obviously, you've got Gian moving up. I think when you seen it at 205, he was just a sloppy mess at times. He's the one thing that I hate about someone like Gian Villante is like how bad his gas tank is, and for a professional fighter for having your gas tank be that bad, to me it's just like a big red flag. And he's slow as well, and he kind of plods forward throwing strikes, and you can absolutely counter the life out of this guy. And he, like I said, you can attack him with kicks because he doesn't throw them himself. He's a boxer. He throws primarily with his hands, and there's a massive kind of gap, I think, in the overall kind of striking skills of Greene as like a kickboxer who throws a lot of kicks, uh, and that's something I think he can use to advantage. But I just see this being kind of really sloppy, and it wouldn't surprise me if Gian Villante was to win a slimy split decision here. But I'm going to go with the guy who is taller, bigger reach, better overall striker, in my opinion. I think he can maybe get the fight to the ground in some spots. For me, I'm going to pick Maurice Greene, but like I say, I am not confident in that fight one little bit.
Yeah, it's a hard one to be super confident because Gian Villante sometimes just pulls a rabbit out of the hat and lands a punch and it wrecks guys' days. But in the middleweight division next we have Brendan Allen against Kyle Daukaus. That is how I'm pronouncing it. Get over it. Will newbie stepping into the UFC, getting signed up in Kyle. What are you looking forward to in the fight, bro?
Well, yeah, I've been a guy that's kind of picked against Brendan Allen maybe one too many times, and he's kind of cost me a couple of fight picks here and there. And then you've got, I was actually going to pick against him in this fight. He was supposed to go against Ian Heinisch. I was probably going to. There's maybe actually a good chance I would have bet Ian Heinisch in that spot. If I'm being honest with you, I thought that Heinisch was maybe going to tough that one out. And then you've got Daukaus who's coming in here, who I was watching him, and I think it's fairly obvious where this guy wants to kind of the fight to take place. I think that Brendan Allen's another guy as well who likes to get the fight to the ground, so he's maybe playing at the wheelhouse of Daukaus a little bit. I think Allen is the better wrestler by far. I think the better jiu-jitsu though is actually on Daukaus' side, so he's very, very good on the mat. I think his striking's not great. I think he throws in a lot of volume, but his head's wide open. He's there to be countered. This is something that I think maybe Brendan Allen maybe needs to use to his advantage here, is that he is the better striker, and just be super confident, maybe mix it up, but just be super cautious as well, taking it to the ground, because I think that's where Daukaus has most of the attributes to kind of win his fight. He's got very good pressure, and he can push guys against the fence and get takedowns through that as well. I think, like I say, he's got really good dash choke, which I think is one of his kind of go-to moves on the ground, and he's always kind of going for the finish, which is something I like. I think this is just a tough fight, in my opinion, to come into the UFC, and a guy who's kind of streaking in Brendan Allen. So I give Allen the kind of striking advantage, and maybe Brendan Allen thinks in this one here, right, maybe the path to least resistance is just like striking with this guy, where I do think he's the better guy, and is it not a chance of maybe getting submitted. So I'll go Brendan Allen. I think that he can maybe mix up a little bit more. I do think he's the better striking, but he's kind of betting numbers a little bit high. It's like minus 300, which I think is a tad high, but he's fought better opposition, he's beaten better opposition, so I'm going to take him in this spot here to beat Kyle Daukaus.
Yeah, I think Carl's got a tough fight coming in, but he's just getting his foot in the door, isn't he? He just wants to get in the UFC. That's all it is. Did the rounds with CFFC, got some wins there. He does, yeah. He's not too bad at the chain submission game. Kyle, he's good at pressure when he's on top. That's the only thing I'm worried about. I'm wondering how Kyle is on his back against someone like Brendan if Brendan were to take the fight to the ground, because Brendan's shown he's got really good top pressure, and he's really good ground and pound. Like, he's good at pinning guys down into position to get the ground and pound. He uses the cage very well, knee rides very well. So Brendan's good with that side of it. But I can say, I think he's going to keep on the feet. I think it's the smarter thing to do is to keep on the feet. Obviously, trains with Duke Rufus, superb striking coach. So you and I are sure that Brendan's always evolving. He's always developing and striking. I'm sure he's improving all the time. And I think Kyle's striking is not to be designed, but it's not really something you can see he's not overly confident in his striking. He's just wanting to get the fight to the ground. I find it difficult to see where Kyle gets it to the ground, because Brendan's wrestling is just going to be a bit superior and can nullify their takedown attempts from Kyle. And I think if Brendan gets on top, he can use his ground and pound. He can use dominance in that area. But I see the fight staying standard and Brendan being able to hurt Kyle. It might go to the ground because Kyle gets knocked down. Don't get me wrong. I think Kyle might even try to lull Brendan in to the ground. But I'm going to go with Brendan Allen as well, bro. I think he should be able to really hurt Kyle on the feet and maybe stop him in the later rounds. So next up, co-main event, the ever interesting is the word to use, Mike Perry taking on Mickey Gall. So at first, when his fight got announced, I'm sure everyone went, all the money's going on Mike Perry. I'm putting me mortgage on it. It's easy work. And then Mike Perry comes out and says, gosh, I'm not using coaches, not using this, not using that. My girlfriend's caught. He come out with these wild kind of notions, and everyone kind of thought, Mickey Gall somehow might actually have a chance in this fight. He shouldn't. Mickey Gall should not have a chance, because Mickey Gall isn't really UFC caliber, to be honest with you. I don't really, still to this day, I think he's so green on the feet. It's scary because he looks scared to get hit. He's happy when he's on the ground. Mike Perry in this fight, it's very simple. There's only one way Mike Perry loses, if it goes to the ground. He has to keep it on the feet. He has to keep his feet. I think, for me, if I'm Mike Perry, be very heavy on my feet. Don't be too crazy. Don't bother throwing leg kicks. Keep it standing. Basically, box. Box for this fight. Pick off Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall's going to try to initiate takedowns. If you make Mike Perry stuffing the takedowns, keeping it on the feet and throwing strikes is the game plan to win this, because I think he could put Mickey Gall to sleep. I think Mike Perry hits hard enough to hurt Mickey Gall and really worry him. We don't know what's actually going on with Mike Perry's training. We don't know what he's actually doing, what's going on. He looks in great shape. I'm not going to think that we're going to get a bad Mike Perry. I think he looks in great shape, so conditioning's there. We've got to remember as well, just because he's done it for this camp or for how long, he's not forgot how to box. He's not forgot what footwork is. He hasn't forgotten how to do takedowns. He'll still have the skill sets. Whether they've evolved, we don't know. But I've got to pick Mike Perry because I'd feel weird picking Mickey Gall. I feel like I probably wouldn't be able to sleep tonight if I did that. So even if Mike Perry didn't have any coaches, I'd still pick Mike Perry.
Yeah, it's like I say, I'm not. It's just one of these fights that I was looking earlier on, and I was thinking to myself, so you've got you've got Mike Perry, who's going to have his girlfriend in his corner, which is not unusual for Mike Perry, but it's a girl that he's knew for a couple of months, and then
and he loves her.
You've got someone in Mickey Gall who's been making Instagram pages for his dog. I'm like, oh, dude. So Mickey Gall, like I said, I've never been on. I kind of try and fade that kid as much as possible as well. And like I said, I got Diego Sanchez at plus 200 over that guy. I could not believe that. And that's what I think I bet Randy Brown against him. I actually think I bet him last time against Salim Touare. I'll be honest with you, I thought that is as good as he has looked. And that was coming up to be a year, so you have to expect that he's making improvements with his hands, but he's not going to want to stand here and throw leather with someone like Mike Perry, because Mike Perry is a savage who will go out on his shield. You can break his nose, you can do whatever you want to Mike Perry, but he's still a hard guy to put away. Now, sometimes his fight IQ is a little bit questionable. I've always said this since the Cerrone fight, where he got taken down, and I think he managed to get back to his feet and then somehow managed to just jump back into the guard of Cerrone, which ended up him getting armbarred. But then I thought he actually looked good against Cowboy Oliveira, and I thought he was actually really unlucky against Vicente Luque. I think he might actually deserve the decision in that one. Then he got blasted out by Jeff Neal, who I think is one of the bigger hitters of that division, and he can put a lot of guys out. But this to me looks like a good bounce back spot for him, but you've seen and you've read so much, and like I watched something earlier on saying like he's only been training once a day and it's only been for an hour and a bit, I think, so not even that long. And Mickey Gall, if he has to win this fight, he needs to get to the ground and he needs to use his jiu-jitsu, because that is where he is strongest. I just don't see it happening. When you look at the caliber of guys, like the last 7 fights to Mickey Gall's CM Punk and George Sullivan and Salim Touare, and you've got over here, you've got Jeff Neal, Vicente Luque, Cerrone, Paul Felder,
Max Griffin,
Ponzinibbio. I mean, you've been fighting legit close to being ranked guys. Felder's a ranked guy, Cerrone's a ranked guy, Oliveira at one point was a ranked guy, Luque, Neal, Ponzinibbio. I mean, it's a big step down, and opposition here. So I'm going to take Mike Perry. I think he wins via knockout. I think he. But would it surprise me if he was to jump in for a takedown and get somebody? It actually really wouldn't it? Because Mike Perry's just an absolute job of a guy. So, but there's no way I'm picking Mickey Gall. I'll pick Mike Perry to win this one here.
Yeah, you feel dirty if you pick Mike.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to go and wash, get in the bath. But main event time though, Dustin Poirier against Dan Hooker. What a filthy little main event this is, Will.
Great fight. People that know me know I'm a big Dustin Poirier fan, but Dan Hooker's actually a guy that's really kind of grown on me. Probably actually since him getting brutalised against Edson Barboza. I don't know what it is. I just think what he showed in that fight, his heart and his toughness, and his grittiness in that fight. Really, you have to admire a guy like that. And he showed it again against Paul Felder, where both guys were landing heavy blows in each other and just went to absolute war with one another. And then he's got his wish here. He called out Dustin Poirier, and now he's into the top 5 of this division. Now you're in there with the absolute. Not saying that Paul Felder's not a big guy in that division, but now you've got someone who had a strap around his waist, has beat legit champions, knocked out legit champions, broken legit champions. And a guy who I think is definitely going to be in the UFC Hall of Fame one day. He's just one of my favourite guys to watch fight is Dustin Poirier. I love what he stands for, what he fights for, and what he's like came through his career, ups and downs. He's had some brutal knockouts, but he's stayed determined and really stuck to him being a champion one day, and he has. And I still don't think he's out of the reckoning in that division, depending what Khabib's going to do. I mean, he's beat Gaethje, he knocked out Gaethje, but when you look at this fight here, you've got the overall pressure boxing of Dustin Poirier, which I think is ferocious. I think he's got some of the best pressure boxing in the UFC, in my opinion. But I do think there is spots where Dan Hooker can really maybe get Poirier. I think leg kicks. Some fights you watch and you're like, oh, he can be busted up with leg kicks, and the length of someone like Hooker, who's great with the knees coming up the middle as well. So if he was to get in close and hit some of those knees and also kind of rip him down with some leg kicks like Jim Miller did, I think Gaethje got at him. So I think if I'm Hooker, that's something I use to my advantage, is try and rip the legs there. And you have to, if you're Poirier, you have to kind of realise that's probably what he's going to do anyway. So just be careful with coming in, because those knees are definitely going to be coming up the middle from someone like Hooker. I do like Hooker's skill set. I must admit, he's a fun fighter to watch with the strikes that he throws, and I think he can pick people apart. But you've also seen him picked apart and take a lot of damage. Obviously, the Barboza one kind of jumps out at you, but he's been nothing but spectacular since moving to 155. So, but to me, Poirier is the pressure boxing. I think is going to pay dividends in this one here. I think that if he gets in close, he can really rip. He can really rip into someone like Dan Hooker and hurt him with some strikes to the body, coming back up the top. I think that if he was to grapple, I think that would be a good choice here, because you've seen people kind of Pettis absolutely crumbled under the kind of guard of Dustin Poirier. But like I say, this fight is actually, I was last week. I'll come out and say that now. I've got a bet, and Dustin Poirier is in that parlay. But as this kind of fight week's come into, I'm thinking I maybe jumped the gun a little bit quick there. I like the fact it's a smaller cage. I think that he can, like I say, with his pressure, I think that he could maybe get Hooker in some spots here. If Poirier turns up to be like some of the fights we've seen in the Alvarez fight, the Gaethje fight, then I think if he's at that level still, now he is coming off a devastating loss to Khabib, where he just got manhandled, and that happens against Khabib sometimes. I think that with his cardio, with his pressure, I think that he could come through in the late rounds here, if not a pretty comprehensive decision. But I do think Dan Hooker's live, and that's something that's kind of come into it the last week, or the last probably 5-6 days. I've kind of watched more on Dan Hooker. Just going over again and trying to see if I can find the confidence in Poirier, which I initially saw. But Dan Hooker, I think, is live. But I think he's got to come through a big kind of storm here if he's to beat Dustin Poirier. My pick's going to be Dustin Poirier, and I've got him maybe via a stoppage late on, if not a decision. But I've got the diamond to win this one here.
Yeah, Dan Hooker's had that one main event, which was against Paul Felder, and you know, he showed good sides and bad sides. One of the things was I don't know what his 5 round pacing is, because it seemed like he kind of slowed down a little bit in the later rounds. It seemed his output lessened a little bit. Now, I don't know if that's because Felder started to realise and learn the timings of Hooker. He started to get the timings, because Hooker looked really good in that first round. He looked solid. And Hooker does have some great footwork, handwork. He's very confusing for some opponents, but for someone like Poirier just has to avoid those leg kicks, because I think Dan Hooker's got to go to there. It's so clear and evident that there's potential leg kicks. But if you're Dustin Poirier, I'd maybe threaten for the takedowns with that. If Hooker throws a couple of leg kicks, go for the takedowns straight after them. Shoot a takedown in. So then it's something to deter Hooker away from that aspect. If Dan Hooker can apply, like you said, Will, Dustin Poirier's got a good top game if he gets on top of you, and he's got a good, and he can land some devastating shots on you. He could put some good ground and pound in. I think if I'm Dustin Poirier, my way to negate the leg kicks on a takedown to just stop Hooker, to put Hooker off. I think Poirier can start to get the boxing involved, like you say, Will. He's got superb boxing skills. He's good with his footwork, because he's very good at getting his foot on the outside of you to allow that left piston come right down the pipe and land on you. Poirier will go for that body. That's the thing. It's kind of Poirier's Achilles is that leg, and Hooker's is the body. After watching what Boser did, destroying the body work before he went upstairs on Dan Hooker, if I'm Dustin Poirier, I'm lighting up that body. Get in there in the early rounds, hit that body work, slow Dan Hooker down for the 3rd and 4th round, then take it to deep water, start to apply the pressure. If you look at the output that Dustin Poirier had against Max Holloway, it was superb. That's a good one to look at, a good gauge. Now, don't get me wrong, I know Max Holloway hasn't quite grown into the 155 frame yet. I think if he was to put a bit more into it, he'd look superb. But I think the output from Poirier was great, and I think he can use it. Dan Hooker needs to use leg kicks really to get the advantage in this fight, because if he can slow Dustin down with the leg kicks, really put Dustin Poirier off his footwork and timings, then Dan Hooker will have a bit more time to play with and kind of try and pick off Dustin Poirier for the fight. So it's all dependent, I think, in the first round, if Dan Hooker can get that applied, if he can get those leg kicks landing. But I'm swaying towards Dustin Poirier. Like you say, Will, I know he lost against Khabib. It's almost like these days you can write that off for anyone, because it's like, yeah, that's what happens. We know, so it doesn't count. For me, I've got Dustin Poirier. I just think he's had those wars several times, like we say with the Eddie Alvarez, the Justin Gaethjes, and he's went through it. He's battled through it. You look at Justin Gaethje one where his leg got wrecked, and he came back what seemed quite early against Eddie Alvarez, and he did great. So I'm going to go Dustin Poirier as well. I think he could win this fight. I'm going to go decision win for Dustin Poirier, because I'm going to tip my cap to Dan Hooker. I think he's got a hell of a heart, and I think Dustin can take the win here. So that's our main event done. That's the card done. As always, thank you for all your comments as well when you join in the conversation below. Appreciate everything you say, guys. And as always, give us a subscribe and a like on the video. But Will, let's jump to the betting side of things. What are you looking forward to on this card? You mentioned bets before. You've said to Poirier. Is there any lines that interest you or could interest you?
This fight card, I'm kind of struggling a little bit. It's weird because last week I liked some spots. And last week, I mean, I had a good week. It could have been decent. Like some of the bets I had last week. I had Tisha Torres, so I got her as a big underdog over Van Buren. Fought a really good fight. Bilal Muhammad fought for my money as well. And the only 2 bets that I lost last week was that I bet Shane Burgos straight, and I bet him also to win by decision. And that was a close fight until that 3rd round where Josh Emmett dropped him, and that's what he's kind of known for. If that didn't really happen, that fight was close. But by the way, massive respect to Josh Emmett, because it's came out today that he ripped his
everything.
His MCL. There was fibre tears in his meniscus, his knee, I think it was as well. So to come through, and especially 15 seconds into that fight, and fight the way that kind of fight played out to win that one, much respect to Josh Emmett. But kind of getting back to here, like I said, I have one bet, Dustin Poirier, Luis Pena. I've got in a parlay, plus 136. I got on that very, very early, where Pena was minus 200, Poirier was minus 175, where now Poirier is minus 220 and Luis Pena is minus 270. Luis Pena might be a little bit high there, minus 270, I think, but that's kind of where I've went with. There was some spots I did like a few days ago, and then the people have obviously been watching and they've been betting fights and the lines have changed. So Zalal was an underdog I liked at one spot. Now he's a favourite. Jordan Griffin might be the underdog very, very soon. Like I said, I like Sean Woodson. If I could work him in somewhere, then I think I'd maybe try and maybe get another parlay going. But outside of that, it's kind of sketch to me how this kind of fight card's going to go. Maybe I might put over 1.5 in the Maverick Borella fight, maybe parlay that up with someone like Sean Woodson. It might be a spot that I like. But I don't like this fight card kind of betting wise. I think I'll maybe have 2 plays kind of maximum, and hopefully I can kind of come through that there. But I'm kind of looking towards Fight Island, where we've got an absolute ton of fights. We've got lines that are out already for, I think, the first 2 cards pretty much, and there's definitely some spots there that I like a lot more than this card. So I think you should trade very lightly, not unless you have some really good reads, and kind of save your money for Fight Island, where we've got 4 events very kind of close back to back. So kind of keep your money there, but you might be able to get some big parlays off. I mean, Maurice Greene's minus 230. If you're confident in him, go with that. Mike Perry's minus 320. Don't really like betting that, even though I think he should beat Mickey Gall. Philipe Lin's Tana Boser, it's a pick'em. It's minus 110 a piece. So if you've got a spot or a side there that you like, you're getting close to kind of dog odds there. So I'm staying maybe 2 plays this week and going to Fight Island hopefully on a nice streak. I've kind of come off a couple of good cards, a couple of good underdog plays, but I don't see any dogs that jump out at me thinking I need to bet this guy or Gall this week. So I'm kind of looking towards Fight Island, if I'm being honest.
Nice, Will. And ladies and gentlemen, as always, give us your bets down below. Let us know if you've got anything going on. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be having a little break, and we'll be back, not obviously next week, but the week after, for the bonanza that's Fight Island, with a cluster of fights in a couple of weeks. So join us then. Thanks for tuning in.